Does that mean God offers unconditional and conditional forgiveness? I'm glad you asked that, Peter. Yes. God offers two kinds of forgiveness. Actually, one kind of forgiveness with two varieties, depending on our response. Okay? So, just to put it down for you, and this is where we're going to pick up next week, I made a chart. Found a new button. It's so neat. I had words all over the page, and I pushed the button, and it made it all pretty in groupings. So, good. This is unconditional. There is therefore now no condemnation to those who are in Christ. We are judicially, the judge of all the universe has declared us totally clean in his sight. God did it. It's positional. That means that we're already seated in heavenly places, like it says in Ephesians and Colossians. It's part of this great doctrine of justification. It comes by us believing, and if we truly believe, we obey. And it's permanent. And it's a removal of our past, present, and future sins. That is salvation. That's forgiveness. And every one of those verses have a corresponding, tied to it, God-ordained consequence if we do not respond the way he tells us to. In other words, if we are not, after this has happened to us, if we're not characterized by forgiveness, we will not know we are forgiven. If our feet are dirty, we are going to remember Jesus in John 13. The disciples had stinky feet and proud hearts, and Jesus took his robe off, tied a towel around himself, and washed their feet and embarrassed every one of them. Why? Because as he told Peter, in John 13:10, he says, you're completely bathed, but your feet are dirty. Because Peter says, wash all of me. Jesus said, I don't need to wash all of you. You're already forgiven. But you need to take care of the broken glass of your pride and relationships and your proud heart. You need to clean up the mess. You need to humbly say, I've sinned against God, and my sins are so great, none of you other disciples do anything that bad, and so I will not hold anything against you. We need to be like Ephesians 4:32 says. It says, this is our responsibility, and be ye kind and tenderhearted and forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. See the unconditional? God has already, for Christ's sake, forgiven us, but he expects our response. Colossians 3, because you're seated in heavenly places with Christ, therefore do these things. Do you see? It's the position and the practical. It's the part of sanctification. The grace of God that brings salvation, unconditional, judicial salvation, teaches us to deny ungodliness and worldly lusts. Unbelief and disobedience, Peter said, we're supposed to believe and obey the truth. Otherwise, verse 11 says, the sin will war against our soul. Finally, sin breaks our relationship with God, and we need restoration.